So we'll start out with food. So we'll start out with the bad first. The gross things that I had on my mission. I am not a fish person. I very much dislike fish, but in Poland they eat a lot of fish, and especially around Christmas time. They have a thing called Vigilia, and that's the Christmas Eve. And what you do is you eat fish, and they have this fish called sledge, and it is, I don't even know what it is, but it is so gross, and they make you eat it because it's tradition. So that's one thing I really didn't like, and other fishes as well, like catfish. You go into the markets and they actually have bins of just water with catfish in there, and other fish, and they're like swimming around, and you have to get them with your bag and put them in the bag. And I just remember seeing people with their fish in the bag on like the little conveyor belt to checking out, and it's just flopping around because it just like suffocates to death. So just really interesting, but I guess that's the way they do it over there, and it's fresh, so I guess they like it, but I did not like it. And I don't think most missionaries like sledge. Some of the other fish maybe, but yeah, that's one thing I really didn't like. But other than that, the food is amazing. Like I love Polish food, and I really miss it. They do a lot of like cabbage, and there's something called bigos, and what they do is they take that cabbage, tons of different types, and what they do is they put it in a pot, and they season it, and they like put it outside for maybe like 4 days and let it kind of ferment, and then they put some kielbasa, so some Polish sausage in there, and they cook it up. And you'd think it'd be really gross, but it is amazing. It is really good, obviously depending on who cooks it, but I don't think I ever had any bigos that wasn't good. So that is something that I really like. Gołąbki is amazing as well, and what they do is they use that cabbage and they boil it and make it soft, and then they put some like a meat inside, or sometimes they use mushrooms and stuff, and it's really good. And they'll put some like red sauce on it. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's amazing. So those are a couple of my favorites. But the traditional foods, obviously Polish sausage, right? It's really good. I love Polish sausage. They call it kielbasa in Poland. And there's a lot of different kinds that they have, and I don't think I ever had any that was gross. And then their traditional soups. So żurek is one of my favorites. I don't even know what's in it, but it's really tasty. And actually, you might be familiar with the restaurant Zupa's. Zupa in Polish means soup. And I believe it's similar in other European Slavic countries as well, but that's just kind of a fun fact. And then pierogi, which are amazing, and they fill them with a ton of different things. Z mięsem, so with meat, z serem, so with cheese, and then my least favorite, mushrooms. I'm not a huge fan of mushrooms, but a lot of people really like those. So pierogi are really good as well. One thing I love is their yogurt. I don't know what it is about their yogurt, but their yogurt is to die for, and I wish they had it here because like I crave it all the time. But yeah, you'll just have to go test that out. And then the juice. I don't know where they come up with all these juices, but it's really good. They have like a banana juice, they have cherry and apple, and it's the best juice I've ever had. So there is tons and tons of good food in Poland, and I miss it a ton. I wish I was a good cook and could make it here, but I'm not that great. So Polish food kind of versus American food. They are very different in the style of food. Obviously, here in the United States, we as Americans unfortunately consume a lot of fast food. And over there, they do have fast food restaurants, but I very rarely met a Pole that would eat fast food, or a lot of them hadn't ever even had it. So they cook out of their own homes and they make their own Polish food. A big difference between American and Polish food would be sugar, sweetness. I feel like here in the United States we have a lot of sweet sugar in our foods, as opposed to there. It is a little bit more bland. However, it is very tasty and really good. They do a lot with meats and, like, I guess breaded foods. So like the pierogi and stuff like that. So that's a big difference. They use a lot of salt and different things like that to kind of give the food a really good taste in Poland. But that is the biggest contrast between American and Polish food that I know of.
Polish food is amazing. My favorite is pierogi. It's like a dumpling with different fillings. There's ruskie, which is like the Russian pierogi that has potatoes, onion, cheese, and that's so good. We would often eat pierogi. Like I feel like I had it almost every day or every other day. And then they have sweet pierogi that they'll put fruit fillings in or cream. And one of the members of the church on a P-Day taught us how to make pierogi, and I decided I want to put Nutella and banana or strawberries in there, and that was my favorite. So good. I love the naleśniki, which is basically a crepe. But they have sweet, savory ones there as well. Lots of really good places to eat. They have amazing produce. I love their apples. And the fall are just some of the best. I don't think I've had a better apple than in Poland. And their strawberries. If you get them right at the right time, you can get so many for really cheap. I love Polish yogurt. It's amazing. Just something about, I think European yogurt is just delicious. They have tons of flavors of juice, and that was one of my favorites. They have this watermelon apple juice that I loved and I miss. They have cactus juice, which is incredibly delicious. You go down like the juice aisle at the grocery store, and every flavor that you could imagine in different combinations of flavors. And I was a vegetarian before my mission, and I started eating meat a little bit before my mission and on my mission. So I steered away from meats whenever possible, but yeah, the members are very kind and generous, and while there's not as many members there, so we didn't have as many dinner appointments, but it was always fun to make dinner with my companion and experiment with stuff that we found at the grocery store.
A lot of the food they have is just, as we look at it, is just home cooking. So they've got a lot of things with potatoes, with meats, with cheeses, with cabbage, of course, with rice. And so a lot of the meals are actually pretty extensive and kind of exquisite, and they're, multi-course meals, where they usually start with soup. Soups are really big over there. They've got a lot of soup, like żurek. They've got a lot of soups that are made out of beets, out of cabbage and things, and they're actually really good. They put sausage in a lot of things. Kielbasa is just a staple over there. It's Polish sausage, and it comes in a variety of flavors, sizes, colors, and that's in a lot of different dishes. And so you usually start with soups, you move on to potatoes. Potatoes are usually are just small. They skin them and they boil them, but they don't smash them like ours, like mashed potatoes. And so instead you end up having just a little pile of just, pure white because they're skinned, boiled potatoes. They don't usually put anything on them, and so just kind of eat them like that. They'll sometimes, if they do some meat dishes with it, they'll take some of the oil drippings, the fat drippings, and from cooking, and sprinkle that over it. They have a lot of stews and things like that. A big, really popular one is called bigos, and it's like cabbage. Often to speed up the process, they'll put sauerkraut in it as well, potatoes, sausage, carrots, just things like that. But then they cook it for a long, long time. So we, cook stew until it's hot and you're good to go. But they sometimes will cook for a week straight, and they'll just cook it on low heat, just slowly add more and more water. And it's interesting. They say that the longer bigos cooks, the better it tastes, which I've actually found is true. It takes out a lot more of that sour flavor that you get with the cabbage or the sauerkraut. But everything kind of just melts down to where it just basically melts in your mouth as soon as you put it in there. It just like dissolves. And so it's kind of an interesting phenomenon. It doesn't necessarily sound as appetizing as it really is, but it's interesting. Probably my favorite is called gołąbki, which literally means like small pigeon, although they don't cook with pigeon meat. At least I hope not. And basically it's big steamed cabbage leaves that they wrap around rice, sausage, some sort of sauce, potatoes usually. They wrap that up in the cabbage leaf, and then they pour kind of a tomato-based sauce over the top of it. It's actually quite good as well. Again, none of these foods smell good at all when they're cooking, because cabbage smells horrible when it cooks. And so if someone opens their door, you're like, oh, they've been cooking with cabbage. But it's really good. It's actually really tasty. You have naleśniki, which are kind of like crepes, just really thin pancakes. They don't usually put sweet things on them, though. They wrap them up, and they'll put, if you ask for cream or whipped cream, what we'd think of, they actually give you like sour cream and things like that, or śmietanka, which is a cream that it's kind of like sour cream, or it's like the consistency of buttermilk, though. They'll just kind of pour that, drizzle that over the top. So you're expecting something really sweet, and it's not. Ziemniaki, they're pancakes that are potato pancakes, where they grate potatoes into really, really fine kind of mush, and then make pancakes out of them and fry those. Those are really good as well. They will eat those either with salt and occasionally with ketchup. That might have just been because there was missionaries there. I'm not sure. But also with jams or things like that, jams and jellies. So that's a fun one. I like that one. Pierogi, if I forgot that, I couldn't claim having been over there, which are kind of like dumplings. So similar to pot stickers from Asia, but wrapped up in dough. And they will make them homemade, several hundred to 1,000 at a time. Just all the women will get together and make those for like an entire day, and then they'll freeze them. And so they'll have them for a long period of time. And they'll have everything from meat inside them that's just shredded meat, or they'll have potatoes and cheese, which are the ruskie, the Russian pierogi as they call them. They'll put fruit in them for dessert pierogi. They'll put cabbage and onions and things like that in them as well. And basically they'll take them from frozen or from fresh, and they'll boil them until they float, at which point they take them out and they throw them in a pan of hot oil or butter, and they fry them, and they eat them that way. And so they've been boiled and then fried, and then you eat them. They're really good. They're wonderful.
One thing you should know about Polish food is that it's great. There's a lot of really fresh produce, like the apples, the berries, peaches, all that stuff just puts us to shame kind of, because it's really fresh and organic, and you can buy it from people on the street wherever you are. And I think their cuisine in general is like pretty hearty, pretty fresh, a lot of potatoes. It can be a little heavy sometimes, but not quite as heavy as some other regions. So make sure you know what you're eating. One time we were over as missionaries at the house of a couple that we were teaching, and they said, "Hey, would you like some flaki?" And I said, "Sure, that sounds good." I have no idea what that is, but they brought out the soup, and I thought it was good, so I just ate the whole thing. And then later on, I was at a restaurant with another friend who took us out to lunch, and I ordered flaki because I thought, oh, I had that before, it was good. And after I finished the whole bowl of this soup, he said, do you realize you just ate intestines? And I thought, oh my gosh, I thought those were noodles. Like, I'm embarrassed to tell this story now, because like you really should be able to know what you're eating. But I don't know whether my taste buds weren't sufficiently developed or what. Anyway, so make sure you know what you're eating. If that would bother you, I don't know. But the food is delicious. There's a lot of really amazing things that I wish we had here.